on this week's episode of In the Suite with Tina Powell.
To me, it was just all about the fact that we need to continually innovate and continually adapt and evolve, not only the profession, but ourselves as people. And so I love being part of these programs that bring out the best in people, that nudge people forward. We all need cheerleaders in our lives and people that believe in us more than we tend to believe in ourselves. And so anything like that I can be part of is just amazing, because it's a great profession that has so many great opportunities, but it can also be a challenging place to be, in all honesty.
Hi, this is Tina Powell, host of In the Suite, where I sit down with top women leaders and some of the biggest names in the financial services and the wealth management industry. Together, we'll discover some of their best secrets and top strategies to grow great business, build a strong brand, and lead teams in the 21st century. I hope you'll enjoy hearing their amazing personal stories of triumph, trepidation, and transformation in hopes of becoming better leaders ourselves. The time for you to lead is now, and you're in the suite. Today we welcome Katie Braden in the suite. At the time of this recording, Katie was going by Kate Holmes, but now she's taken on her husband's last name and going back to her full name, Katie Braden. You all know Katie as the energetic founder of Innovating Advice, which provides consulting, coaching, and community for forward-thinking financial planners and advisors who want to easily and authentically grow with video. She also co-hosts the Video Creation Masterclass, a 3-month course for financial advisors that help them increase their comfort and confidence on the camera. Katie describes herself as a passionate advocate for propelling the global financial planning profession forward, and she's had the pleasure of working with financial services professionals in over 35 countries and territories. She's also the host of the Innovating Advice show, available on all major podcast outlets. Katie is a firm believer in innovating and adapting continuously on a professional and personal level. She's made her own life decisions by asking the question, why not? And I love that. In fact, one of the many gifts you'll discover about Katie Braden in this episode is her own embodiment of that principle. Whether it's obtaining her certified financial planner designation, starting one of the first completely virtual fee-only monthly retainer financial planning businesses, earning a degree in photography, hosting the largest financial planning conference during the pandemic, or getting a pilot certification. Yes, she's a certified pilot and has a 4-seater plane. Katie is out to break the mold. There's no doubt that today's episode will highly inspire you to ask why not. Katie's spontaneous approach to life and attitude towards a growth mindset will only push you to think and do things outside the box. In the suite. Wow, Kate Holmes, take a seat in the suite. It is so wonderful to start this Thursday morning with you. I'm so excited. Look at that gorgeous tan you have.
It's all fake lighting, Tina. I don't know where this tan is coming from.
So I couldn't wait to have you in the suite. And you've been doing some really, really cool things. You have had such a history, Kate, in this industry. You are a founding member of XY Planning Network. You are a CFP Women's Initiative board member there. And you are the founder and CEO of Innovating Advice. And you got back on my radar during the pandemic. You had this massive global event with this TED style speaking. So I would love for you to just kick us off where you are right now, because this whole global framework that you've created is just fascinating.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. And that was really cool. It was like the largest truly global financial planning conference that's ever been done. It was 36 hours. We went around the world and we actually trained financial planners around the world with little to no speaking experience to deliver 10-minute TED style talks. And that program kind of encapsulates a lot of the different things you just mentioned. I've been fortunate enough to spend much of the last 7 years actually working with financial planners in like 35 countries. I still am a CFP professional. I've been in the profession for, 16 years now. And I launched one of the first totally virtual monthly retainer financial planning businesses back in early 2013. And starting Innovating Advice, to me, it was just all about the fact that we need to continually innovate and continually adapt and evolve not only the profession, but ourselves as people. And so I love being part of these programs that bring out the best in people, that nudge people forward. We all need cheerleaders in our lives and people that believe in us more than we tend to believe in ourselves. And so anything like that I can be part of is just amazing, because it's a great profession that has so many great opportunities, but it can also be a challenging place to be, in all honesty.
Yeah. So you speak about the fact that we need to evolve, that we need to be innovative with ourselves. And what I see you doing, Kate, is around these soft skills of communication, which actually feel very much like hard skills, right? Yeah. Video, you have a masterclass in video, you have your own podcast. So what do you see in terms of where advisors need to innovate the most?
Yeah, so I actually really like to start again with the actual person. And I don't know, I was born if there's a contrarian gene, I have it. Throughout my entire life, if everyone is going one direction, I run and I go in the other direction. Case in point, I got a degree in photography in Australia.
So I saw that.
When everyone else was like, I'm going to go to University of Washington because I'm from Seattle and get a business degree, I was like, nah, let's do something else. And just seeing so many people kind of follow life's traditional path and realizing that we still have a lot of that ingrained in us. But if you actually dig down deep, not everyone wants that. And when you think about the true power of financial planning, it really is helping people figure out what they most want in life first, before you ever have conversations about money. And we hear that talked about a lot. But if you are, for example, someone that has kind of followed a very traditional path, if you get a client or prospect in your office that maybe doesn't want to follow that path and wants to take risks, but again, needs that nudge from someone, then you're not going to have the personal experience to know how to have those conversations. And so when I started my financial planning business, I didn't want to be in an office. I love traveling. I love being all over the world. And it wasn't my intention, but clients kept saying to me, they were like, Kate, you are the example of what I want my life to look like. And even working with successful business owners and high net worth families, they were like, wait, if you took a traditional business like financial planning and turned it on its head with the fee model, the service model, and going virtual, they're like, well, maybe I can do that too. And so I just kind of doing things a bit differently. It inspired other people, which again was kind of not on purpose, but I realized that's something that I think we need to see more from financial planners is figure out what you really want first and then be that example to your clients of what's possible.
And your mother is a financial planner, right?
She was an investment advisor. She's retired now, but she never did financial planning. She did asset management only.
Interesting. So how did you get involved in the industry? Because one of the things is that I love it when I hear that someone has like a genetic linkage to this industry. So was she your inspiration for coming here?
I would say the inspiration for coming here was that when I graduated Australia, they had changed the immigration rules like 2 months before I graduated. So the government kicked me out and I didn't know what I was going to do next. So she was like, hey, why don't you move back to Seattle, which for me personally, I never wanted to live in again. She's like, why don't you move back here and you can kind of take over the family business. So that was my shoe-in. And it was amazing because it allowed me to see every aspect of the business and get experience that people in their early 20s don't get. And I kind of fell in love with it and being able to help people. And honestly, Tina, it was from a lot of those conversations where I specialized going into companies and talking with people from rank and file to executives. And honestly, time and time again, and this is an overgeneralization, but it's to make a point, I would talk with people heading into retirement that kind of had a lot of regrets. They were like, look, I just stayed at this job for the last 30 years because I had a mortgage to pay and we had kids. And, they're like, maybe I don't even want to stay married to this person anymore or living in this house. They kind of just, quote unquote, did all the right things. But I could see a lot of regret in their eyes. And in all honesty, I was like, I don't want to get to that point and be decades down the line and wish that I had done more, done things differently.
That's really inspirational. I heard something today, I love Gary Vaynerchuk. And I heard him talking today, and it was a keynote that he gave like a few years back. And he said to everybody, he's like, okay, he's over 40, right? And he's like, okay, everybody who's not over 40, raise your hand. And one of the interesting things that he said is like our grandparents, right? Our grandparents didn't have the internet to have like a side hustle. The previous generation to my generation, the baby boomers, they didn't like when you came home from work, you came home from work. The only way that you were going to then dig into some sort of like passion or enterprise or entrepreneurship was you actually leaving the house. And what an incredible time that we live. And I look at the power of your example, Kate, and I see someone that is just like this repetitive pattern of like, okay, we're going to break the mold a little bit here. Like you lead like the normal path, go to college, but yeah, we're going to go to Australia. And then I even saw it with Belmore Financial because you were a pioneer in the fee for planning model rather than the fee for AUM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So there's this common theme here of just like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to have my own kind of interpretation, which to your point can be very inspirational. You don't want to live a life of regret.
No, you don't. And honestly, even in the early stages of going to conferences and meeting really successful financial advisors that had been in the profession for 30 years and talking with them about, hey, how have you built this business? And the amount of times, Tina, that I saw regret and the amount of them that told me, I have a really successful business. I've been very financially successful, and I entirely missed my children growing up. And it almost cost me my marriage. There's a ton of regret in that. So whether you're financially successful or not, again, it's changing that definition of what is success.
Yeah. Well, let's help make the financial advisors that are listening right now to this podcast. Let's start to plant the seeds of success for them. So kick us off a little bit more with Innovating Advice. You also have a fantastic podcast, Kate. You've had it now for years. You've got, I don't know, you're almost at 100 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We've had some of the same guests. I saw Travis Parry, Kate Healy, right? As well as some
amazing.
really, really cool people. I just saw your blockchain. So I love how you're digging into modern themes that advisors need to know. They need to be able to bridge these conversations. So tell us a little bit more about the podcast, how you got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started the podcast. I have to say, Tina, I had the best timing in the world. I launched it in February 2020, and it was hands down what got me through the pandemic, especially in those early stages. And the people that I got to talk to because they weren't traveling, like it could not have worked out better. The friends that I've made, basically everything I'm doing, yes, hands down, everything I'm doing right now in my business is directly tied to stuff that came out of that podcast. And I started because, again, I have a unique perspective of having worked with financial planners around the world. And it's so interesting. I've had the same conversations, whether I've been in Russia or in South Africa, in, the mountains of Bulgaria or in Brazil. Everyone looks to America as though America has all the answers. And even though we have the longest profession, it's been a bit messy, and we have a lot of convoluted stuff in the profession. We haven't figured out how to attract more women. And there are really great things happening outside of the US. So I try to be that bridge of finding those amazing things and bringing them back to the US while simultaneously still sharing some of the great things in the US. So some of those top podcast episodes, the number one most popular episode is actually from the recently retired CEO of FP Canada, so FP Canada runs CFP certification in Canada. And it was all about adapt or die.
Wow.
And that episode is still listened to. And it was just so powerful from someone in his position to kind of say, look, you have to, right? You have to adapt or innovate, or your business is going to die. And the thing is, Tina, it's actually okay. Financial planners that decide they've gotten to a point, it can be a lot more work to create that succession plan and pass it down. Sometimes attrition actually works best. So there's nothing wrong with that. One of my favorite episodes was actually with Dr. Mara Catherine Harvey in Switzerland. And she has amazing books that actually teach young women, so young girls, about empowerment and financial literacy. And I believe I just saw the other day that she's actually teamed up with the UN to publish these books. So when we think about how can we empower the next generation of, little girls and young women, she's doing really great work there, which is incredible. Kim Pottinger, and I cannot pronounce her name. I love Kim. She's amazing. She's in South Africa, just doing really great stuff around financial coaching. That's what's so cool is it's seeing all this diversity out there, people that are innovating, that are also just really good people.
And so how do you get on their radar? It feels very much that you're getting a warm reception from these global guests. And I'm just curious, are you just like sending out a LinkedIn email, Kate? And they're saying, sure, I'll be on your show.
A lot of it. And I honestly thought about actually drawing out a map at one point, because I was like, it becomes this crazy web of like who introduced you to who and who you met where. And again, I've traveled to so many of these places. So a lot of these people I know firsthand, but then you ask them, because they're great people, you say, who would you recommend I have on the podcast? And then it's a warm introduction. I don't think I've had a single guest that's been a cold email. It's all been somebody I know or an introduction from somebody I know.
That's really, really fascinating. And when did the global travel start as well? And we're going to talk a little bit about what your husband does. And I want to also to congratulate you on your pilot certification, Kate. High fives. Wow. So so your husband's a pilot, right?
Yeah, he's doing private work right now as of this recording, but by the time this is released, he might be somewhere else. But yeah, he flies all over the US. He was just up in Alaska last week and Canada and down in Florida Keys. So he kind of covers it all.
That is so great. And so now you can say to him, like, honey, I'll drive. I'll fly.
That's exactly. I do. Yeah. When it's the two of us together, I'm in the pilot's seat and he's passenger or second in command.
That's it. That's awesome. How long did that pilot certification take?
28 days, because I tend to be a bit of a black and white person, Tina. So if I'm going to do something, I'm like, let's get it done. So I basically saw heading into summer of 2021 with the US especially reopening, I was like, everybody's kind of, as soon as their kids are out of school, they're heading off for the summer. So I was like, this is an opportunity. And again, going back to that, I don't want to look back and regret not doing it. So I was like, here's an opportunity. And I found an accelerated program and I went to school every day. And I basically took the month of July off and I was like, I'm going to get this done. And then guess what? I'll have it for the rest of my life.
That's what I want to extract here, right? That's what I want the people listening right now. We so appreciate you today, right? Is that this idea of innovation can mean that the approach that you take to that very thing could be different. You could accelerate it. I love it. What size aircraft do you fly?
Little one. Yeah, we've got a little four-seater.
Okay, yeah, like a Cessna. I was in a Cessna my first time. This is going back like a couple of decades and stuff. Very different from being in a commercial aircraft.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're so fun. And that's the thing, Tina, is doing these things and innovating yourself and trying different things. My business partner, Adam Owen, who's actually in the UK, he asked me afterwards, he's like, do you feel like a different person? And in a lot of ways I did, because I was thinking so much about confidence and how many young financial planners or people starting their own business, struggle with confidence. How do I close the sale? That sort of perfectionist tendencies and analysis paralysis. And the first time that I landed an airplane by myself, I was like, it just changes your perspective on absolutely everything. So how can you then bring that back into your business? And once you're doing other things, you're trying other things, that will naturally manifest itself in innovating your business, because it's all about that mindset. And it starts with you as the person.
Which is as how we started out this podcast, right? True or false? Do you think for women to build our confidence, that the best way to build our confidence is outside the business, like you were kind of just describing?
It can be. Yeah, I do think it's important to have that balance of not having everything tied to the business.
Yeah.
Not having all of your wins tied to just professional stuff, having whatever those outside hobbies are or successes, or even raising children. We don't have kids, but I know that's a success for people that do.
Yeah. It made me think, take horseback riding lessons, and I see girls of all ages. I see like 10-year-old girls walking around that barn and like owning it. And they will get that horse and they will tack up that horse and they will do everything. And they get on that course and they're jumping and they're cantering and they're posting. And I look at them, Kate, and I say, wow, this is what a great preparation for business here. The same thing, I see it with golf, right? My two main hobbies are horseback riding and golf. I think, though, it lends itself very well to the fact that we need to have interests outside of the business that will help us fuel, right? And in your case, global traveling, flying. Is there anything else? What else is next for you, Kate? And podcasting?
You never know, Tina. That's the thing. You never know. You just got to go out and see what seems interesting and then go for it. And I'll share that one of the things, a lot of people approach decisions. And I think when we do financial planning, it can be what if scenarios and what if this happens and what if that happens? And a lot of people make big decisions and they're like, well, why? What's the first thing anybody asks? If you're like, oh, I'm moving somewhere. Why are you moving? I'm leaving my job. Why are you leaving? My husband and I approach every decision with why not? And it's amazing how that changes the entire conversation and perspective, because so often you realize why you wouldn't do something really frequently comes down to fear. Why wouldn't I go get my pilot's license? Because it kind of sounds like a terrifying thing to do. So I was like, okay, I have to do it. I've got to do it.
I love that in you. I think this is so, I love seeing this. I love the expression, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah. Because if you go, why, then you can come up with every excuse in the world. Well, it would be this and it would be that and it would be the other thing. And why not? And we make every decision looking 5 or 10 years in the future. And we say, if we don't do this, will we regret that we didn't try?
Right.
That's how all of our big decisions are made.
Hey, listeners, do you want actionable advice and inspiration for your day? Do you want to take your leadership to the next level? If you do, then follow us on Instagram at InTheSuitePod and get it all on social. This week, we featured strategies on how to declutter your calendar and how to increase your pay. All tips we can use from our amazing guests. So please give us a follow. I would appreciate it so much. And when you do, be sure to send us a DM so we can send you a special surprise as a token of our gratitude. I want to talk about how you started your business, because again, you were a financial advisor and now you have Innovating Advice. You do have a partner, Adam Owen. What was the genesis of you finding each other and starting this business?
Yeah, it all happened during the pandemic and we've never met in person. He's in the UK. So one of his business partners in Next Gen Planners in the UK, he was a guest on my podcast. And he was like, hey, you and Adam need to chat. And so we talked. And yeah, that was probably in April of 2020. And it just went from there.
Fantastic. Wow. You're just breaking the mold everywhere, Kate Holmes.
Awesome. Life's too short not to.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that you and Adam are doing and that you offer through Innovative Advice is the idea of video creation. And you have a video master course. And I actually haven't done this on a Zoom, but I am going to do, not on the recorded Zoom. I want to actually share this just for a minute for those of you who are going to be watching on YouTube later. Check out this tweet from Kate. I get a lot of questions for my office setup and video setup, and she goes to share all of the things that she's doing. And she's giving you the visual here. And then Kate, you're also providing a free 9-page ebook. Let me know if you want a copy. So I would love it if you would be able to talk a little bit about what that setup needs to look like. And this 9-page ebook for financial advisors, I think this is the perfect tool for them as they're listening and saying, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Well, and I'll say the setup does not need to be anywhere near what mine is. Remember, I have a degree in photography, so I like to do this stuff, but I've been doing virtual video meetings since 2013. And actually, my mom's business, when I started in January of 2006, they did all virtual as well, but it was by phone. So again, the idea of virtual is nothing new, but with video, it was so interesting to me when the pandemic started and I kept attending all these virtual conferences. And so many times you couldn't hear the person presenting or you couldn't see them because their lighting was terrible. And I was like, if you're in person, you would make sure that people can see you and can hear you. You would adjust the blinds if you need to. And so just these little tweaks can actually make a world of difference, because if you're having a client or prospect meeting, you don't want your message to be totally lost because they're so distracted trying to understand you. So I'll give you the link to the ebook so you can include that if you want in the show notes. And Adam and I have a max of 3 rule. So the 9 pages is kind of just broken up into 3 different sections and sort of 3 things in each. So a bit of a matrix, just providing some guidance on, hey, you can easily update your office setup, whether you're working from home or in a brick and mortar. Just make sure you've got good audio. Invest in even a $60 microphone that plugs in will make a world of difference, and get a little bit of a ring light so that people can see you clearly. Little things that make a big difference.
Yeah, I was going to ask for a financial advisor right now who's saying, okay, why not? Yes, I'm going to begin to invest in my own training, to do video. That will mean, and we both saw it right with the podcast, that you will need to upgrade your equipment at some point. What do you think is the baseline expenditure? Like, how much does an advisor need to kick things off if they want to do video well?
It depends on how well. So in the video creation masterclass that you mentioned, so sticking with 3, so that's a 3-month masterclass. And so we say people don't need any equipment to go through it. And we've had people from all over the world go through this masterclass, have great success, and we set it up in a really digestible way. And that entire first month is actually just focused on getting comfortable in front of the camera, because that's challenging, and we can leverage video in so many different ways. You can send video emails, you can send asynchronous 2-way conversations using cool tools, which is a great thing to do before your first prospect meeting. And so just how do you get comfortable? Because that isn't a skill that is innate skills in a financial planner. And then the second month goes into all of the technical bits. So that's where we do touch on, okay, if you want to upgrade, definitely recommend you upgrade your microphone first and then your lighting. But look, the amount of people that have been through the masterclass that still, they'll post videos. I'm like, what were you shooting that on? Because we always try to, gather different recommendations. iPhones are absolutely amazing. And the amount of people doing really high quality videos just on an iPhone, which goes to show you don't need a huge investment. I have like 6 different cameras, but again, I do this all day long. And then the third month goes into content because people get so nervous. They're like, well, what am I going to be posting about? Or what am I going to make videos about? And I promise once you start, there is an endless amount of content. So it breaks it up into that easy and digestible bit, but make sure you're comfortable because, Tina, you could invest $2,000 in amazing equipment. But if you turn that record button on and you freeze, and I joke that some people look like they're kidnapped, and I'm like, blink twice if you're safe. They just stay absolutely still and they forget to blink and they're all wide-eyed. And it's a little bit terrifying, but it's practice. Think about even Michael Jordan. He didn't start out amazing. You have to practice.
And so for the advisors that are considering your video masterclass, are you live or are these recorded sessions or a little bit of both?
Yeah, we do a little bit of both. So because we have people around the world, then it kind of auto drips out content Monday to Friday, which is just like 2 to 4 minutes of content a day. So nice and digestible. And Monday, we kind of say, what's the theme for the week? On Tuesday, we'll give a specific prompt. On Wednesday, we'll give a little more instruction. On Thursday, you actually see examples from financial planners around the world. So really fun to see creativity. And then Friday is generally just the day we say, okay, record and upload either Friday or over the weekend. So that way, if somebody wants to pop on in the afternoon or they're going to catch up on everything over the weekend. And then we do 2 live sessions a month that cater to people in different time zones.
That's great. So it doesn't sound like it's a huge investment in time. What I like about how you're explaining the course, Kate, is that if I'm a financial advisor, I need not go out and purchase a gazillion dollars of equipment. I can take the course. I can certainly learn something from it. And then after I master some of the ideas, it's what I did with podcasting. I didn't press play for 4 months. We sat and we scripted and I learned and I hired a coach and I went to General Assembly in New York City. The equipment was the last thing. You're planning out your editorial calendar. You're planning out your guests, your audience. You're having to get on all of the platforms. So I really like this approach of just learning something. How much is that course? Because I know a lot of light bulbs are going off right now.
Yeah, so it's $750 if you're not a member of the IA community, but you get 20% off if you are a member of the IA community. And it's run inside the Innovating Advice community. So even if you're not, then you get 3 months full access to the community, to all the programs, to all the workshops and everything while you're doing the Video Creation Masterclass.
Ooh, so let's talk a little bit. Let's spend a little bit of time here on the IA community, particularly for advisors right now in the US.
Yeah, and that's where it started. And so, this is a great example of kind of being part of things overseas and going, hey, I actually don't think we have that in the US. And so working with networks like Next Gen Planners in the UK, which Adam Owen works for, and they just do such amazing things. They've got this incredible community. And it dawned on me, I've been a part of a lot of the communities in the US, and there are amazing ones. There are so many great ones. But it dawned on me, in all honesty, in October of 2020, don't know if you remember, we had a bit of division in the United States on a few different topics. And I was thinking, we've just got so much division in the financial advice profession as well. And when you look at a lot of these groups, you generally have to fit into a box, which is amazing, right? If you want to focus on marketing, go do that, or operations, go do that. But I was like, I wasn't seeing a true community that actually fostered collaboration among people in different areas of the profession. And so we're really focused on developing that next generation of leaders. So even if you're a career changer coming in your 40s, if you're straight out of university, providing a lot of those skills and tools to help people get that innovative thinking from the beginning and learn those leadership skills and communication skills and marketing skills and encouraging people to build their own brand and do video. So it's only $47 a month. We try to keep it super reasonable because, again, I know there are a lot of things out there. It's like, can I afford this? Can I invest in this? And a big thing is really being accessible and affordable to people, brokerage side, RIA side, whatever it is, come in, and you just need that collaboration over competition mindset.
As it relates to the business of financial advice, what are other countries doing that we should be doing more of?
This is one of those things, because again, we seem to have this like, if you're not fee only, then you must be a terrible advisor, or if you're not doing this. And it's just kind of like, hold on, that's not how we build this profession. And it's fascinating to me. I'm constantly talking with people in other countries that ask me to describe how financial services works in the US. And I can't do it. I've tried so many times and I'm like, it's just too convoluted to explain. Whereas other countries that are smaller, they do have a bit more cohesion in how they work, which I think is good to see. There is a benefit to being smaller. But we've got a ton of great stuff going on in the US. Let's make sure we're all learning from each other.
Yeah, and you've been part of the CFP Women's Initiative now for many years. You are a certified financial professional. Talk to us a little bit about where the financial planning profession is in terms of women. I know that this initiative kicked off. I was in the audience years ago. I remember Kate Healy being there and how the CFP was making a very strong attempt in aligning resources and people to the mission of getting women in the industry, particularly women as CFPs. Have we accomplished our mission?
No, not yet, but that's okay. We're making progress. And when it comes to hard numbers, the number of women CFP professionals is growing. But the sort of challenge there is that the number of men CFP professionals is growing as well. So the percentage is kind of staying the same. And we know that once women obtain CFP certification, they've got incredible job satisfaction. But I know from talking with women over the last 15 years that we unfortunately still have situations where women aren't supported in their firms to get CFP certification, where we'll see men of the same age, same experience, same everything get moved into client-facing roles and sponsored for CFP certification. And that doesn't always happen the same for women. And honestly, that's another part of the IA community, is for those people out there that kind of feel like, is this how it should be? Is this normal? No, come and find your people and know that there is a better way. And there are just so many great people out there in the profession. But if you're in a situation where you're not supported, it doesn't always feel like that. So making sure that we have enough women mentors and programs showing women, we need you in this profession. There are great opportunities. There are great places to work where you'll be supported and continue to develop throughout your career.
Yeah. I think for women who don't feel the support that they need right now, I don't know. I look at this job market, Kate, as CFP, especially female CFP. I think they have a lot of leverage right now. There are a lot of people, a lot of employers looking for qualified candidates. And what I see is the talent shortage that they had been predicting for years is really, really coming true right now. Because, and this is partially because of the pandemic, women had to there were many that I know firsthand, a CFP, that she made the decision to raise her family. I don't want to mention her by name. Yeah. That's what I was thinking, and it was going to come out. So I'm glad it didn't come out. But anyway, and she was very, very vocal about that. Right. And nothing against her firm, but she had to draw a line in the sand. And one of the things that I said to her is, I said, work will be there when you're ready to come back to it. And thank goodness that you have this certification that you are. Just keep that as active as you can. But there's definitely a talent shortage right now, probably not only in client-facing roles, but even in the back office.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And that's a good point, is, there's so many more things than just being the financial planner. We need people in communications roles and marketing roles, in people to create video content and podcasts. So even if there's another avenue you want to go down, there are openings, but there are still firms that haven't innovated and haven't evolved. And that's where we kind of get into the adapt or die. They're not going to be able to attract those incredible women to their own detriment.
Talk to us a little bit about, you're also an advisory board member. You're involved in a lot of wonderful organizations. And this is the Sega network. Can you explain what that is for our audience? And I would love a little bit more clarification on it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Sega Network was founded by Hui-Chin Chen, who is a CFP professional based in the U.S. She's originally from Taiwan, and she has lived all over the U.S. all over the world over the last 10 years. So she's one of the foremost experts on holistic financial planning for globally mobile clients. And that's a really specific area. Again, when we think about joining a network and kind of fitting into a bucket, perfect example of that's a niche area. So for the amount of advisors out there that work with cross-border clients, and the amount of advisors, do you know how many advisors I have call me? And they're like, hey, I live here. I'm thinking about moving out of the country. How does that work?
And how do you meet? And I'm looking that you just joined in 2020. So obviously you've already been there for a couple of years. How does everybody convene?
Virtually.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, with people around the world, kind of doing, things that work in different time zones, and having monthly meet and greets to make sure people can collaborate, and having a nice online platform where people are throwing up questions and getting responses.
So advisors that are listening right now that might want to join, again, these are advisors where their clients are global, not necessarily they themselves, but they're serving a client base that has very specific needs to these cross borders, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that it's super common. I read a stat recently. There's something like 60 million expats around the world. Again, not all US expats, but if you think about all the different countries. So how many people have dual citizenship, or they're married to somebody who is of a different citizenship, or they even work overseas for a couple of years for a company or a contract?
Yeah. And previous generations didn't have what we have right now. Again,
Yeah.
this global society. My son right now is in Croatia and
Oh,
he'll be
wow.
in Paris in a couple of days. Yeah. I mean, he and my future daughter-in-law, they're like you and your husband, Kate. They just
Yeah.
love to travel globally.
Yep.
Right. And the
It's an
chances
amazing
of,
world out there.
again, they're already together, but the chance of meeting other people. I have two cousins actually that married and live in Ireland.
Yeah. See?
And without giving away the punchline, is there one piece of advice for financial advisors, whether or not it's through podcasting, video, speaking, their own content creation online? What does that look like?
Yeah, I would say the number one is show your personality. Whatever your personality is, whatever your hobbies are, because generally you want to attract like-minded people. And if your personality is witty, then, in your content or your website posts or your blogs, be witty. If you're super serious, be super serious. And that's one of the challenges we see in so many firms is they have such tight compliance restrictions that advisors can't be themselves. And I think that actually compounds negatively way more than we realize. We're just constantly held back and held back. And I think that builds. And that, Tina, is one reason that people leave the profession. They think I came in to help people and be myself and help other people like me, and they can't. So wherever possible, show your personality. And that's also advice I would give for women entering the profession, and young women especially, is find your people that allow you to be who you are. If you find you're in a firm or a network or with colleagues that don't truly encourage you to let yourself shine, then I would encourage you to look for other people.
Such great advice. I think if I would expand on that, what I love that you're saying about just be who you are, show your personality. The great thing is that you will repel the people who we're not for everybody. There's not one person in the world that's universally like that. That's unfair to put yourself under that kind of pressure. In being yourself, you automatically repel the people who aren't for you, which is exactly what we want. And so us being unapologetically ourselves, and we say this to clients. We have a client, Kate, that has got a very Southern accent, and I've got a very Northern East Coast accent. And I said, I want you to be unapologetically you. I said, Bobby, you need to be unapologetically. And we've done that in all of their marketing. And he has a podcast and all his videos and all of the content that radiates around him. He is who he is unapologetically. For women especially, and it doesn't mean that you've got to go to some firm and start acting like an extrovert and just be your normal self. If you even being just an introvert and being very quiet, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Be who you are, because it takes so much effort, takes so much work to be the antithesis of what you are naturally.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'd love for you also to talk to us about your Twitter. And so on your Twitter bio, it says that you are almost always smiling. And it is something that I noticed about you, Kate. Where's this origin of this smiling thing?
I don't have any idea, but it was early in the pandemic and everybody kept saying that to me. And I was getting comments of people that listened to the podcast, just the audio only version, not the video. And people were sending me messages that said, I can hear you smile. And I thought that was so interesting. And I was talking with a colleague in the UK one day, and I was stressed out about something. And he made the comment, he's like, are you okay? he's like, "Hey, you're always smiling, but you're not smiling." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so it was other people saying it to me. And Tina, it's just a reminder to me that if I go a while without smiling, then I'm not working with the right people or working on the right things.
What's the best way also too? I know that you're on social. I know that there are a lot of people listening that are going to want to follow you. So give us a mind dump on all of your channels.
I'll make it easy. Just head to innovatingadvice.com. That links to, you can send me a message, that links to all my socials. And I want to send people there because, Tina, there's a video of me right on that homepage, and people can send me a video message. So I would love to get some video messages from people and let me know what you found most valuable in this podcast today, because we talked about a lot of things, and it's also just a fun way to experience sending video. And I promise I will send you one right back.
So the last question that we're asking, your best book recommendation, what's on Kate Holmes' bookshelf? And I'm looking in the background and I see a bunch of books.
Yes, I do have a lot, and there are a lot of things I could recommend for a lot of different reasons, but I'll stay on brand here, Tina. And I'll actually recommend Rehumanize Your Business: How Personal Videos Accelerate Sales and Improve Customer Experience.
There you go. Definitely head over to Kate's website and see how her innovative approach to video and using that as a framework.
I would encourage it. And again, even if people are going to remain a brick and mortar business, there are still really great ways you can improve your client experience through using video and your website experience.
Kate Holmes, congratulations on your pilot's license, on all of the exciting work that you're doing. It was an absolute joy to have you in the suite today. I'm so excited by your takeaways and your inspiration today.
This was incredible. Thank you. Best way I could possibly start my day today.
Me too. Thank you so much, Kate. You're listening to In the Suite, a podcast that shares amazing stories of women in business and the financial services and the wealth management industry. Our producers are Tina Powell and Kevin Hirshorn. Our editor-at-large is Kevin Hirshorn. Our content writers are Dimple Rashandani, Daniel Wheeler, Olivia Gonzalez, and Tina Powell. In the Suite podcast is sponsored by C-Suite Social Media, a high-growth digital marketing and social media agency for financial services in the wealth management industry. You can visit csuitesocialmedia.com to learn more. And thank you so much for listening and subscribing and giving us 5-star reviews. We are so grateful to you. We've got listeners in 1,071 cities and 55 countries. That number completely blows my mind. Please let us know how you enjoyed this episode with Katie Braden and share your thoughts on social, #InTheSuite. You can connect with Katie on social at Katie A. Braden. Visit her on her website, www.innovatingadvice.com. And always, if you would like to make suggestions, share a name of a guest you might want to see on the show, please send it to me at tina@inthesuitepodcast.com and we'll consider it. Again, thank you so much for listening and subscribing to In the Suite.